doesn't ever study. Another choice is to use a semicolon and to not capitalize. Final choice, and it is talked about in that chapter, is to use a conjunctive adverb. Those are usually long words, otherwise, nevertheless, moreover, however, but the word then is one also. So use a semicolon and then a comma around a conjunctive adverb, and of course, there's no capitalization. 4 ways to avoid run-ons. Now let's move on to phrases. So we are going to get into verbal phrases, but first, what's inside a verbal phrase, before I even explain what a verbal phrase is? A lot of prepositional phrases. They're everywhere. So what are they? They are phrases that start with a preposition and they end with the object of the preposition. All of our phrases and all of our subordinate clauses just act like a single part of speech. Prepositional phrases are always going to be modifiers, an adjective or an adverb. That's it, okay? So they're just going to modify. How can we spot a preposition? Well, in middle school, oftentimes they drill you and make you memorize them. Okay, if that works for you. Another way to recognize them is to know what they're doing, all right? Not just what they are, but what they're doing, all right? Because even if you memorize them, they're not always acting like prepositions. They can act like other things too. So they mainly indicate location or place and direction. I'm going to the store. I'm sitting on the desk. Location and direction. But there are many more. Some indicate time. Some indicate who is doing something or what is being used. What is being used. All right. So let's look at that briefly. Prepositions for time. So yes, this could be a location. She is in the kitchen, but here it can be used for time too. In January, in 1985, in a season, in a century. We have on. On can be for time also. At. The game is at 7 o'clock. Prepositions for place. That's, as I was saying, one of the common uses, all right? So in the hall, in the garden, so on. On a table, on a blackboard. Or direction, going to the library, he jumped into the river. By agent, the book is written by Shakespeare. The tub is filled with water. Water is filling the tub. It's like the not human agent, all right? So by and with, all right? And prepositions for device, instrument, or machine. She comes by bus. He opens the lock with the key. But there are so many. So let's look at a list of some of them. Okay. So here's a list of some of the prepositions. And what you're going to learn here, which you probably didn't know before, is that in addition to the ones you are used to, about, after, among, at, behind, beside, between, by, during, for, from, in, into, near, of, on, through, to, under, with, we have some that are called compound prepositions. So there are more than one word makes up just the preposition, not the full phrase. According to, ahead of, along with, because of, in addition to, even 3 words can be the one preposition. All right, so we could spend time on that, but I'm going to move on right now. If you feel you don't know those, just look online, I'll send you these sheets. You can review them. So, all right, so we are going to see this week's focus is on verbal phrases. What are they? Well, they are forms of a verb that are not used as a verb anymore. They are used as adjectives, adverbs, or nouns. Adjectives, adverbs, or nouns are just, remember, subordinate clauses and phrases are just parts of speech. They're always going to be acting like a stretched out part of speech, is how I like to explain it. So, infinitive is a verb form. A participle is a verb form. A gerund is a verb form. Those are our three types of verbal phrases, and the only ones. An infinitive is to plus a verb, right? And an infinitive can be used as adjective, adverb, or noun. So here we have it being a noun. To err is human. To plus a verb. And here we have it as an adverb. Is Ramon ready to start? So those are just the infinitives, but then they can be lengthened with other words and prepositional phrases to lengthen the whole group. So I'm sending you these documents, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. A gerund ends in ing, but it's a noun. So it can be anything that a noun can be, which we've already studied. Even in a positive, umpiring, his job, Phil's job, umpiring is hard work. It can be a predicate nominative following a linking verb. It can be an indirect object. He gives time. Time is a direct object. He gives gardening all his free time. Remember, like an indirect object comes before the direct object, and it usually answers to or for or something. He gives us all his free time to gardening. And our participles and participial phrases. So here's the difficulty. A present participle looks like a gerund because a gerund ends in ing and so does a present participle, but they don't act like the same thing. One, the gerund, is a noun. A present participle is an adjective. So in order to determine which is which the ing is acting like, you can't just go by what it looks like. You have to figure out what it's doing. So sometimes it's in the verb phrase. Is dancing is the verb phrase. Had been excited is the verb phrase. Have been shopping. So the past participles, the present participles, they can all be in verb phrases, but that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on when they're used outside of a verb phrase, and they're called a verbal. That's why they're not called a verb, because they're not a verb anymore. All right? So, a present participle is always going to be an adjective or a past participle. Here's a present participle modifying a noun. Swinging sign. Necklace modified by a past participle. Stolen necklace. A past participle is not always the simple past tense. Today I walk, yesterday I walked is the simple past tense, and I have walked. The past participle is a form of the verb that follows have, has, or had in a verb phrase. So, when they're regular, like ending in ed, like walked, it's going to be the same in the simple past tense as the past participle form. But here, stolen, today I steal, yesterday I stole, I have stolen. So the form of to steal, the past participle is stolen. So it's acting like an adjective, modifying the noun. ing, present participle, modifying the noun. Speeding, present participle, modifying. I don't know where that is. Okay. All right. So anyway, just look through these sheets. Now let's look at an example, like a worksheet. All right. So you're going to have your own worksheet. And I gave you this to explain. You can look at it on your own. It has all the answers for you, but I'll explain it just a little bit with you. And then you have to do another one like this. So, italicized. between commas. It's not a verbal phrase, but that's one of the 4 choices here. It's an appositive phrase, renaming Babylon. So you just identify what is italicized. These 2 periods, separated by 1,000 years, this one is renaming period, so it's an apositive. Hammurabi is king of Babylon. Or this actually right here, sometimes when they're between commas, they can be a restrictive clause and they could be modifying. So I will have to check that one. Let's see, what did I have on that? That one's a participle. I have to look at my thing. So that's a participial phrase. Even if there's commas around the phrase, they don't always have to be apositive. This one is more renaming Babylon. This one is more modifying periods. What do I have here? Hammurabi did not wish. All right? Well, this, we don't have to figure out what it's doing in this sentence. It's to plus a verb, so it's an infinitive. This is everything up to the verb. What comes first in a sentence? It's a noun, so we know it's not a participle because it is a noun, so it's a gerund, right? This is an ing, so we know it's either a gerund or a participle. It comes before the noun, so it's not going to be a noun. It's going to be a modifier of the noun. Well, this number 6 is sometimes the apositive comes before the other one, but it's still a way of renaming Hammurabi just because normally they follow what they rename, the apositive, but it comes first here. So we know that we have a noun and a noun. There's nothing verbal here, okay? We have looking after the well-being of his subjects right here. It follows what? A preposition. So it's the object of the preposition, so it's a gerund, right? ing. It can't be a participle following the preposition because objects, which are nouns, follow prepositions. To succeed. To plus a verb, it's an infinitive. We have a long italicized phrase here. Leader arose. That's all we have in this sentence is a subject and a verb. We have a subject. This before is going to be modifying the subject. It's not going to be a gerund that precedes another noun. We're not going to have a noun in front of another noun unless they're renaming. But that, we have the ing, so it isn't. This one renames Nebuchadnezzar, so it's an apositive. This is an ing following a linking verb. So it's a predicate nominative. Nouns with ing are gerunds. Okay. Infinitive. Preposition, object of the preposition. Objects are nouns, gerunds are nouns. So this is a gerund. Infinitive. This is an ed. So we know this is easy. It's a past participial phrase, acting like an adjective, modifying Babylon. So that should help you with verbal phrases for this week, but there is one more thing. So there's a list here, and hopefully I'm not running over 15 minutes, but if you can copy this down, if you can see it, how to identify verbal phrases? By their form and function, what they look like and what they do. And easy for infinitives, they're to plus a verb and they can be those 3 parts of speech. Gerunds end in ing and they act like a noun. Present participles end in ing, but they are acting like adjectives. So how the gerund and the participle function differentiates them. Past participles, easy to spot if they're regular in their ending, D or ED. They always act like adjectives, just like present participles. But they can be irregular. They can be like swum, spoken, driven. So they can be irregular. So thank you for listening. Hopefully that helps.